Lisa Schnebly Heidinger is celebrating Arizona with lots of interesting people, so you'll hear wonderful voices with new stories. Grab your favorite drink and settle in. We're celebrating Arizona, going everywhere from A to Z, and we're off.
Welcome to Celebrating Arizona. This is an exciting moment for me because I get to introduce you to my longest friend. This is Michael Riley. Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much for coming. And you came a long way. You came from,
England, all the way from London.
I think there should be some sort of weird award for that. I don't think anybody has come from close to that far for this.
Well, I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did too. So, Michael's Arizona goes very far back. I want to say you were born. I know your mom is from New Jersey.
And I was born in New Jersey, but we moved here
Okay.
when I was maybe 10 or 11 months old. So for me, Arizona's home.
Okay. Pompton Lakes, right?
Pumpton Lakes. Yeah, well done.
Thank you. The important stuff is still in here. I've still got it. And tell us a little bit about growing up and where you were and what you were.
Well, we were very lucky. For those of you that know Tucson, we lived in a neighborhood called Winter Haven. And we would decorate all of the trees and decorate our houses and our mailboxes and our doors. So it was quite fun to be able to live in Winter Haven and enjoyed that a lot. I went to Cragen Elementary School, Doolin Junior High School, then Catalina, which is where we met in our freshman English class. I believe we would say honors English
I
class.
believe we would, yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlton, our teacher, went on to let you be on the trumpeter staff and wouldn't let me because I wasn't a journalist.
And who's the better writer amongst us, young lady?
Well, thank you. Too bad he's not here to see that. So I think of you playing the piano and on the swim team in high school, but what do you think of you?
Yeah, that's probably right. And choir. Choir was the big one. Choir was the
Right.
biggest. I played the piano. I still play the piano. But that's where we really, that's where I think we got even closer was in choir and formed a little group of friends there that was a wonderful, wonderful friendship with 5 or 6 people that I hadn't had before.
I had not either. It
Yeah.
was, and it doesn't feel right to us because we know us, but we were perceived as cool, that group was, which I still just have a hard time imagining.
I do too.
But it's everybody says so. Yeah, and you were in the top choir, the elusive choir, elite choir, sophomore, junior, senior.
Well, that was only because of our fabulous honors English that the class conflicted with I think it was called mixed choir. There was beginning boys and girls, there was mixed choir, then there was concert choir. And I got bumped up to concert choir because the regular English class just seemed a bit too not challenging. I wasn't learning anything.
And
So I
then
needed the honors.
ensemble too.
The ensemble, we both made that last year. And then that was certainly a big, big thing for both of us.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
16 people, as I recall.
I think you're right. And I have already told the story on this show of being at the Shamrock Dairy having performed and meeting Mrs. Sewell. I've told that story on this podcast. And high school was I couldn't imagine anything as amazing as high school was because it was Winter Haven, it was choir, it was your red
My,
convertible Mustang.
that's true. And it was really the first time I was very much a loner. I was terrible at sport. I was made fun of a lot because of that, but I was good at piano. But as a result of that, I really didn't have many friends. But in high school, things changed, and I had a lot of friends in choir, and I had you as a close friend, and it was a lot of fun. And I remember how heartbroken we both were when we graduated. Like, what are we gonna do?
Oh, and singing that last song together,
Yeah,
holding hands really tight because I thought everything I've ever cared about is just about to end.
the world's gonna end.
And we weren't wrong in a way. That world did end. Fortunately, you did not disappear,
Yeah.
and you Hampshire College and then U of A, correct?
That's correct. I just did one semester. I wanted to try going back east because that seemed to be the cool thing to do, and I was very unhappy. And it was a very small liberal arts college, and I knew I wanted to go into business. I was already working for American Airlines right out of high school as a gate agent.
Well, and actually, even before that, you were
Yeah.
working for American Airlines in high school.
Yes, it was a special program, a professional internship, and there were about 10 or 12 of us selected to do this. We had to work 20 hours a week, unpaid, and you got one class credit for it. So I had to do summer school the summer before in order to be able to get all my classes done. But I had a blast. I just loved that job. And my mother used to say to me, Michael, you'd pay them to work there. You enjoy it so much. And I was very fortunate. When I graduated high school, they offered me a job. I remember back in 1974, it was $5.36 an hour.
Oh my
In fact, it was
gosh.
5.77.
Which wasn't bad
5.70.
money for
That's great.
1974.
Yeah, the ice cream parlor, Farrell's, was I think it was $1.20 I was getting
Oh
from
my
them.
gosh. I forgot about
Yeah,
Farrell's. Yeah.
yeah. So,
And you were an American your entire career.
yes, I worked for American Airlines for 40 years. So,
Wow.
uh,
And where?
so I went from Tucson when I graduated university. My degree was in human resources, and shortly after I graduated, a new supervisory position opened up, and I took the. I promoted. I applied for that job, and I got it, and I worked there for about a year and a half, and then I became redundant or was laid off, and I went over to Sacramento. They were just starting the airport operation there with 2 flights a day. And so I worked in Sacramento for 3.5 years. And then in 1983, I went to the head office in Dallas, Texas. So I did human resources work for 23 years there. Um, I did recruiting, I did internal selection, career development, those kinds of things. And then I was a generalist HR manager for the head office. And then in 1991, I was offered the opportunity to go to London to be the head of human resources for Europe. So we flew to 8 different countries at the time, and we had just 3,000 employees over there. And it was a 6-month temporary developmental assignment.
Really? That lasted?
Gosh, at 30 years or so, yeah. I finally retired in 2014. But after the 6 months, they kept saying, well, you're doing a pretty good job. Would you stay a bit longer? I said, would I? Would I? Absolutely. So I did that job for 13 years. And then in 2004, we were trying to recruit an airport general manager for Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. And long story, but the short story is they finally said, Michael, we think you could do that job. And I said, you got to be joking. I just bought a home here. I just bought a new car here with a steering wheel on the other side. And I don't speak a word of French. So why would you send me? And those people are bad people. They go on strike. They're French. And I went and I absolutely loved it. And I knew I was not going to come home after a 1-year temporary job there. And I stayed for 7 years. I had a great time, and I learned to speak French, and I have a lot of good friends there still. And they were a wonderful team to work with. I had a ball.
That is
Yeah.
marvelous.
And
And
then
then you were still there when I got to come to Europe with Sedona 11 years ago and got to stay with you. And you very, very kindly flew with me to Cannes. We got to stay at that incredible ancient building, see Sedona, sing in Normandy.
yeah,
And then you drove us into Paris, got us established in our little flat. And then when Sedona was at a museum, you took me to, I want to say something Nor, but it was the North train station.
Gare du Nord.
Thank you. That's what it was.
Yes.
So that I would know what I was doing the next day. You just made Europe so much better. And
Good.
then she and I ended up coming back to you, and it was incredible.
And you went on to Brussels, I think, from there, or
Yeah,
Luxembourg.
exactly.
Yeah,
Brussels and Luxembourg came
yeah.
back, spent one night in Edinburgh, came back, and then finally, and you were the one that told us all the swans in England belong to the Queen,
That's right.
and lots
Now
of
they
other
belong to the
things.
king.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. I forgot. They've gotten a different owner. Wonder if they can feel that. And when we were in Arizona, I was always in Arizona because we didn't have the money or imagination to do much of anything else. And you were going to Hawaii while I was spending summer vacations in Winslow. And still today, you are living all over the world, and I am in Arizona. And we both love it, which is great. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about more of all of that. An Arizona 250 stop many know is Rock Springs Cafe, which began as a supply stop for miners from the Bradshaw Mountain area. In South Black Canyon City, it's famous for pies and comfort foods. You can eat in the rustic wood floor dining room more than a century old, from huevos rancheros for breakfast to brisket dinner with cornbread and barbecue sauce, or country fried steak for dinner. And take something home from the old general store, treats to enjoy later. So when we came to London, you weren't working in Paris anymore. You were in London.
That's correct. Yeah. So after Paris, I became the general manager for Heathrow, London Heathrow Airport.
So wait, general manager of
London Heathrow Airport. So the airport's called Heathrow, but it's the big airport of London. And American Airlines had about 25 flights a day there, and I had 750 staff. It was a big job.
gosh, man, oh man.
Yeah.
And that's what you retired from.
Yes. Yeah. That was my last goodbye, and I was kind of sad to leave the company. There'd been the merger with American Airlines and U.S. Airways, and the way things turned out, they did reorganizing, and I had to leave the company, and I was just devastated until about 2 to 3 months later when I found out that there's a whole world that's not working and going to lunch and having fun and traveling the world. And I thought, this is great. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I have been having a ball for the past 12 years traveling and having fun and seeing friends.
And you owe American Airlines for getting to always be first class, right?
Not always first class, but sometimes I get to sit up there if there's seats available.
Okay.
And what I do is look carefully at flights to make sure, and then I get to sit up in front of that curtain.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only time I ever got to was when you suggested me to get a job at the American Airlines
Oh,
in
that's right.
Dallas.
The American Way in-flight magazine.
Thank you. That's what it was.
That's right, and she wanted you.
She did. They flew me over for the day, and it was
Yeah.
first class. That was those two were my only first class.
It's
Yeah.
a whole different world, isn't it? It's fun.
It was amazing, even that. And then when it came right down to it, I just couldn't leave reporting, and I didn't. But who knows how things would have gone.
Well, there is no in-flight magazine anymore, so that's one thing that's gone now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. I did the right thing. So when you lived here, you weren't a huge fan of the desert,
That's absolutely true.
but I remember you spending time in Flagstaff. Tell me about where were you in Arizona when you were young?
We didn't really spend much time touring Arizona at all. As a kid, I remember we'd go down to Nogales, and we went to the Grand Canyon when I was probably 3 or 4 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So that was the only time I went up there. I remember going to the Petrified Forest. I remember the big crater in the ground where a meteor hit, whatever that's called, and I remember Montezuma's Castle.
Really?
But
Not many people have been there. I love Montezuma's
yeah,
Castle.
yeah, and I remember going. We'd also go to Pine Top sometimes. We had cousins who had a cabin up there. But we really, when it was time for holiday, we would go to Oceanside, California. We would get out of Arizona because we didn't want the heat. We left. That was my parents' decision, and boy, did I agree with that.
And you still do, and
I
that's
still do,
fine.
yeah.
But then you and I, years later, got to do my 48-hour Northern Arizona tour.
Which was fabulous. Yeah.
Go back to the canyon,
Yeah.
stay in Flagstaff, go to Sedona.
And honestly, that was so much fun for me because it really had been since I was probably 4 or 5 that I had been to the canyon. In fact, I remember looking down that outhouse and thinking, I don't know about that. I decided I didn't have to go to the bathroom anymore.
Oh.
But when you and I went, I was just amazed at the size of the Grand Canyon. I thought, oh my God, look at this. And it was so wonderful. To be honest with you, I flew over it many times because when I lived in Sacramento and I would have to go to Dallas for work, you flew over the canyon. So I've flown over it many times going,
Oh,
ha, ha, from first class, of
interesting.
course, but looking down at those poor people down there. Um, but to actually be there was just overwhelming. It was
I'm so
wonderful.
glad.
And then to stop on our way back in Sedona, equally just I'd forgotten how absolutely gorgeous that is. So that was a really fun trip.
That was a
Yeah,
great trip.
yeah.
And I am very lucky that you were gay because we get to go anywhere we want and nobody cares. And it's wonderful.
And your husband gives you permission.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's perfect. And then I remember that you had been in Flagstaff in high school because you did music camp.
Yes, one time I did a 1 week music camp on the piano, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah.
And you would accompany us in choir in the competitions.
That's right. Remember they used to have things at the university, and there was a name for it. I've forgotten.
Yes, something ensemble festival, something.
Yeah, anyway, but
Anyway.
I would accompany singers, I would accompany violinists, I would accompany people with on the clarinet, whatever. People would have solos, and I would accompany them. And I always liked accompanying. It was fun. It's very different than being the performer. The person you're accompanying is the performer, and you need to follow them. And
Oh,
that's very different than being the star. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And you were also the only person I ever really danced with.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, that was, it was great fun, and it still is. And we would go to, they would let us into any bar at 15, 16,
That's true. They
17,
did.
18. Very
The
different
executive
times.
inn, remember
Yeah,
that?
oh, very well. Yeah, I can just picture you and Betsy whirling out on the dance floor to Sweet Caroline.
Do you recall the name of the band?
Shoot.
The somethings. Yeah, that. Yeah. Good luck on that.
Thank you. Maybe it
Yeah.
will float up at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But yeah. So now, even though you can go everywhere in the world, and you pretty much do, you do still come back to Arizona.
Well, primarily, probably the biggest driver has been our high school reunions, which we're doing every 5 years now. But I had a family reunion here last May. I've had some funerals I've had to come here for. And so it's usually those kinds of things that draw me here. And then I like to spend 3 or 4 days, and then I've had my fill of the desert, and I say goodbye.
I understand that. Yeah, I'm still rooted in the peaks. Okay, we're going to take another break and come back to be a little more specific.
Okay.
As podcast partner to AZ250, we want to introduce the delights of being a Passport 250 holder. It's free, mobile friendly, and easy to use. No app download is needed. You get it at azpassport.com. Then, when you visit the special places, you check in, track your progress, and earn recognition for your Arizona adventures, developed with the Arizona Office of Tourism. We frequently do get to the Arizona Inn, and there are other places that you don't mind being in the Valley and in Tucson.
It would probably be a Mexican restaurant.
And you got a new one this week,
That I did indeed.
Via de los Santos.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. My mother lived in Florida, and my older brother still is there. So I go to Florida quite often, and Florida Mexican food is not Arizona Sonoran Mexican food. I lived in Texas for 8 years. Tex-Mex is not Arizona Sonoran Mexican food. So when I come here, I am very, very happy. Cheese crisps, I think, only exist in Arizona. You can't get it in
Now, see,
California.
I didn't know that.
You won't find it anywhere except here.
Yeah.
Machaca, I love. You won't get that in Texas or Florida. Chili verde, those kinds of things, they've never heard of it. And so I OD, I think, probably on Mexican food when I'm here.
Okay.
And then I pay for it when I stand on the scale when I get home.
I still say celebration food does not make us heavy. It's boredom food.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
that. And you also cooked last night, and you cook along with everything else you do. That's amazing to me.
Well, I enjoy cooking. When you travel as much as I do, um, it's really nice to eat at home because you're having nice meals out a lot, and you're sitting on a plane having a meal perhaps. So if you cook for yourself at home, you know exactly what's in the food. You can take care of your health and your weight, and it's a bit of a balancing act. And I like to cook. I like chopping and dicing and smelling it, or putting something in the crock pot where you come home later in the afternoon and go, "Oh my gosh, who's cooking dinner?" I'm thinking, that was me. I put it in this morning. And I love to have friends come over to the house. I have some very good friends in London, and we get together every Wednesday. We call it family dinner, and I make the main course. Goalie, the next door neighbor, makes the salad. Her husband brings the wine, and if we have other guests, they bring a dessert or some kind of a nibble for beforehand. And so it's always a fun evening. Yeah.
And as bad as pandemic was, it kind of gave you that family.
It did. We were all well in the UK. Our lock-in was much longer than yours. We were much more strict. We must have been in lockdown for 6 or 7 months the first time, and we were permitted to go outside for essential exercise, and also to go to the supermarket. There were four kinds of stores open: supermarkets, hardware stores, drug stores, and interestingly, liquor stores.
Oh, well, you need them. I mean,
That's
you're all stuck
right.
inside.
So the national health system is called the NHS, our medical system. Uh, we're going through a lot of difficult times because no one knew anything about COVID. We were frightened to death for our medical staff that they were going to die from it. So on Thursday evenings, we were told to go outside or into our windows or whatever, but clap for the NHS at 8 o'clock. So after 2 or 3 Thursdays of doing this, the young couple next door to me were on their balconies, and Edith looks over at me. She says, "Well, we're all out here, and there's another couple downstairs, Goli and Alban." So she and her husband are upstairs. I'm up there. The other two are downstairs. And she says, "Well, we're all out here. Why don't we have a glass of wine?" So
That's how it
there's a little
started.
wall between the entryway of their home and our flats, and we all went down there by the rubbish bins and had a glass of wine and became best friends. So every Thursday we would go out and have some wine after, and then eventually individual dishes of nuts started showing up and crisps and
Crisps.
potato chips.
Thank you.
Yes. But we had to have individual bowls so we wouldn't contaminate each other,
Oh.
and kept our 2 meters away from each other. So Goli and Alban were at the front door. Edith and Sharia were at the end of the walk down by the sidewalk, and I was on the opposite side of the wall, keeping our distances. Yeah. But once things lightened up and we could meet together inside, the family did. That was the family, the original family.
Yeah.
And the Wednesday night dinners started, so that would have been 2020, and they're still going.
Isn't that marvelous? Now, you also have done, you've kept your career current because you do volunteer help. Tell me more about that.
Um, I was doing it with a charity for about 10 years, and I finally stopped with the charity, but I still get referrals of young people. Because of my human resources work that I did and managing people and identifying talent and trying to promote people, I really enjoy a lot mentoring young people who have completed their degrees, but they haven't been able to get a job. And so I work with them mostly via Zoom, but they send me their resume, and we talk on the phone about places that they could go, where they might be able to apply their skills. We brainstorm industries. We talk about just getting your foot in the front door, even if it's a receptionist. Get into the right company.
Oh,
I started at the
interesting.
very bottom of American Airlines. I was
Well, that's
waving planes
true.
into the gates. I was a managing director of Heathrow Airport by the end. So I know it works.
Oh, that's interesting. So get into the right place and then you can work
Work
your
your way
way.
up. If you can't get into where you want to get in, start at the bottom and work your way up. Because someday someone's going to go, I passed reception and that young lady, Lisa, she seems so bright. And I was talking to her, and you can't believe it. She has a degree in XYZ. And so it works quite well. So what I do with these young people is help them brainstorm think about ways to best apply for jobs. And then when they have an interview come up, I do a mock interview with them, which usually lasts about half an hour. And then I give them feedback. There's always, the first question is always going to be, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I teach them how to prepare for that so that they can roll that right off the top and get themselves going. And how to prepare for the questions at the end. So it's worked out very well. I've helped over 100 young people get jobs. So it's been very, very
How
satisfying.
marvelous. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's really fun. Um, question. Well, first of all, I got a mental snapshot of a picture of you and me and Jim Tobin and Betsy dressed up like tourists at Colossal Cave.
I recall that.
And that made me think of Triple T Truck Stop, where I think we did something similar
Yes.
down on.
Yeah.
And then I remembered the sunburn of a lifetime with you at Patagonia.
Patagonia.
And I've talked about that day on this show also, and getting honey buns from the hostess truck that felt sorry for us because there was no food to be had. And where else in Arizona? Gosh. Well, Bobby McGee's. Larry took us to Bobby McGee's when we were up here for a play with the Mrs. Lackey's class. And rather than go back on the bus, you came to dinner with us at Bobby McGee's and then rode back.
To be honest with you, I don't recall.
That's
I remember
okay.
Bobby McGee's very, very well, though. That was a fun restaurant. It was on Tanca Verde.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
big bathtub with all the
Oh, yes. Yeah.
uh,
And there was a very trendy kind of a building next door to it, as I recall.
solarium.
Okay.
Wonderful place. I wish that. Yeah. If I get whatever I want in heaven, solarium is going to be there. That was pretty cool. Last question. We've all learned a lot. Well, those of us who want to learn. What are you glad you know now that helps you live better?
There is a lot of crap going on in this world. The wars going on, the hatred, the discrimination, it's awful. The blaming so many things on immigrants, the racism, it just goes on and on and on. And it's horrible, and I can't fix it. I can try to influence people I talk to. I can post things perhaps in Facebook and try to put some reason to people, but I can't fix it. So I think the biggest thing that I think is that important, if I can be as warm and as kind to everyone within my reach, to make sure that they're happy, that I smile at strangers, that I'm welcoming, and if we could all do that to each other, we can create a wonderful little space beneath all that noise up there and live happily, I believe.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't say this to every guest, but I love you.
We'd really like to hear from you about anything this show led you to think about. Write to us at celebratingaz.com. The wizard behind making a conversation into a podcast is Tom Heidinger. The music comes from Daniel Blatney. And I'm Dana Cooper.